Good morning. Today we will see the session on effective technical writing. The outcomes are prepare and present research proposal or research paper by following research ethics. So this is the first outcome, that is preparation of the article manuscript for any conference or journal. And second one is prepare and present the research proposal with research ethics. We already discussed about ethics in the research and related to plagiarism. So this is our first outcome of this session. Second one is make effective use of computers and computing tools to search information, analyze the information, and prepare the report. So how we can utilize the ICT tools or computing tools to prepare our manuscript or proposals and analyze that information. So these two outcomes we will be getting at the end of the session. Previously, we have discussed about problem definition, research approaches, and in the last session we have discussed about literature review. In this session, we will discuss about what do you mean by technical writing, its characteristics, the structure of technical writing, and some tips while preparing this document. So we'll see the definition, effective technical writing. So it is a particularly important since it facilitates in the dissemination of knowledge by the researcher, and it also helps in decision making. So why it is needed effective technical writing? It is important because it facilitates in the dissemination of knowledge. How you disseminate your knowledge or your research work to the research community, that is through effective technical writing. That's why this is important. It is done in a scientific style. So what do you mean by scientific style? There are different kinds of writing: academic writing, essay writing, technical writing. So we are talking about technical writing. So it is done in a scientific style. So we'll see what are the steps, characteristics of this writing. It is characterized by simple statements of truths which don't change with time. So whatever research you have carried out, those are based on some facts, real statements or truths, and which doesn't change with the time. So technical writing is a writing discipline that involves communicating complex information to those who need it to carry out a specific task or achieve a certain goal. So this is a definition. So we'll see. Technical writing is type of writing about a particular subject or a particular field that calls for direction, instructions, or clarification. Writing in this style includes characteristics that are extremely different from other genres, like you may be writing creative, you may be creative writer, academic writer, business writer. So it serves different functions, different for different purposes, different kind of writing is needed. For technical writing, it is about a particular subject or field. It is essential to a variety of enterprises, industries, organizations as a result. Without it, it could be difficult for or impossible to comprehend or carry out certain operations and complex subjects. So understanding technical writing and its distinctive features is essential. So we need to understand what do we mean by technical writing and its features, because when we are carrying out the research, maybe we are doing the post graduation or PhD work. So this is very important. So before you start, you should appreciate or you should understand the significance of it, and then you need to carry on. So what are the components of technical writing? First one is clear. It should, whatever writing, technical writing we are doing, it should convey the information clearly and concisely and leaving little room for the interpretation. The language is straightforward and succinct. That means whatever you write while writing your research or putting in the documentation form, it should be clear and concise. There should not be any ambiguity. And clear objectives must be defined or written so that the reader or the uh, person who is reading that technical report should understand what what is what the author wants to convey. Second one is straightforward. Facts are presented in a direct and to the point manner. So whatever experiments, results, analysis is carried out, those should be put in direct form or up to the point. There should not be any ambiguity between those points. So that's why the technical writing should be straightforward. It uses specific terminologies to precisely describe objects and processes. Whatever methodologies, objectives are defined, those should be precise and it should describe those things in specific terminologies. Easy to understand. Next point. So technical writers use simple and understandable words and avoid complex terminologies. So this is not an literature, English literature report or so it is a technical report. So the author should use simple and understandable words and so that the research community should understand it easily and work on their problems. So the next component is easy to understand. Next is denotative. That means it emphasizes literal definitions. So you, if you do this, then you avoid misunderstandings caused by many different connotations of words. So it emphasizes on literal definitions. Next is detailed. Technical writing leaves no room for interpretation. For example, textbook provides the most comprehensive and factual overview of a topic of technical writing. Say we use many technical books and it gives no ambiguity there. So and no room for interpretation also. It is given in detailed form with detailed descriptions, diagrams, figures, and it is based on the comprehensive and factual overview of that technical subject. It should be very structured. So it should be clearly structured so that readers can follow along with that structure and understand it easily. So readers rely on technical documents for step-by-step instructions. That's why many of the researchers follow the articles, books written by these technical authors. Easy to skim. So documents are written with skimmability in mind. So audiences can simply scan the text to get the information they needed. So there is often table of contents, index, relevant descriptive headings at the start of this document. Next one is important, problem solving. So every technical document is written to solve some problems. Maybe book, it may be article, maybe some conference paper. So readers learn how to accomplish certain tasks or obtain technical information. So this is one of the important components of technical writing. Now, this technical writing aims to communicate complicated information to readers in a way they can comprehend and use. So it is for the reader's purpose or to the research community purpose that they should be able to understand what the author has, what work has he has carried out, and then from that the authors, or sorry, the readers, how they can utilize that work and make it used for their research. So this is important. And a technical writer is responsible for a number of tasks like gathering the technical information on that particular research topic or research problem. Then accordingly plan the creation of technical document and prepare the document. It may be, if he has right, if the author or the writer is writing a thesis or a project report, then he has to plan that what kind of chapters he need to include, or if he is writing for a conference paper, then what are the content need to be included in that particular article. So these things the writer need to plan. Next is sort the information according to its relevance and value. So whatever information is gathered, so one need to sort it and according to the relevance where he or she is going to submit, or for what purpose that document is being prepared. So sorting the information is again important. If the writer has done extensive literature review and gathered information like hundreds of papers he has read and collected the information, then the writer can go for writing a review paper. If the writer has done some simulation work and uh, got some results, then he or she can go for the uh, research article. So these kind of points can be done, carried out once the sorting of the information is done according to the relevance and value of that particular information. Next is create and edit the necessary documentation. So once gathering of information is done, then planning is done, and then sorting is done according to the article, and then you actually create and edit the necessary documents. So you can start working on creating the document, or you can use the templates given by various publishers and start creating. And once the creation is started, you can keep on editing till the final version. Make copies of all technical documents and enter them into database. So once you prepare this technical document and on some websites, so this is the next part. Last one is maintain a comprehensive glossary and library of technical words and reports. So you need to maintain the glossary or library of technical words which you have utilized during your research. So you need to maintain those things. So here is one some example, or what are the examples of technical writing. So one is standard operating procedures, SOPs we see in the industries, case studies and white papers. So many a time we see that some manufacturing companies, they prepare some device or some machines and they operate it on some particular cases, or they prepare their white documents, white papers, and keep it open for the public, and so that further work should be carried out on that. So case studies and white papers are also examples of technical writing. There are business proposals. These are also one kind of technical writing. Technical documentation related to particular say, machine is installed, then what is the uh, what are the technical details of that particular machine can be prepared in a document. So those are technical documents. End user instructions, technical reports. So these are reports like dissertation report, project reports, mini project reports, feasibility studies and corporate reports, research results. So once the research is carried out, then you can prepare the articles for conferences and then you can present, or the articles or manuscripts for the journals, or the articles for the proposals, funding proposals, or for various government agencies. Then policies, preparation of policies and procedures is also a part of technical writing. Then literature reviews or review papers are also one kind of technical writing, and API documentation. These are some examples, and out of which are mostly relevant with our course are technical reports, that is dissertation, project reports, research reports like articles, proposals, and then review papers. So we'll focus on these three parts. So we'll start with technical report. So a technical report is described as a written scientific document which conveys information about technical research in any in an objective and fact-based manner. So this is important. In an objective and fact-based manner. So it conveys the information about technical research. This technical report consists of three key features of research, that is processes, progress, and results associated with it. So these consist of these three main features. A technical report is considered as product that comes with your research. So it is like byproduct or the end result of your research work. A technical report is a product of your research, and it is used like a guide for the next researchers or for next research work. So before writing the technical report, one must keep in mind that who is your reader, who is your reader, and whether it is professors, industry professionals, or customers looking to buy your project. So studying the target audience enables you to start structuring your report, because one cannot write same kind of report for everyone. So if you are writing it for completion of your degree as a postgraduate student or as a PhD student, then we know most of the times professors are our readers. So we need to prepare the document accordingly. If it is related with some product, then industry professionals will be interested in it, and one need to give the theme, or one need to prepare the document according to that product manufacturing or product processes theme. Or if it is related with some customers, then one need to prepare the report accordingly. So it gives you an idea of the existing knowledge level of the reader, and how much information you need to put in that report. So one cannot put all the information if suppose professors are there. So one need not required to put the fundamental things which are already been published or which are already been in the textbooks or books, reference books. So accordingly we need to prepare. So therefore the reader, who is your reader, is important while before writing the technical report. Many people tend to put in fewer reports in the report than what they did in the actual research, which is only fair. I mean, you already work so much, and why should you go through the entire process again to create a report? So some cases we see that people tend to put only, or tend to put less efforts to prepare the report. The importance of technical report. So first thing is, it is a conveys the information, or it conveys the work you have carried out. That is nothing but it is a mode of efficient communication for all the technical readers. Second one is, it is the evidence of for your work. That means you have worked on that, and you have given some hypotheses and proved them through different manners, or by using different methodologies. And when you are putting it in the form of some report, it gives, or it proves that it is your work. Next thing is, organizes the data. So whatever work you have done, it is kept in a structured document, or in a structured way, in an organized manner. So in this you organizes the data. So that is again another important. then this is one kind of tool for evaluation of your work. So most of the times we see that students, graduate or postgraduate students submit their reports, and that reports are one kind of evaluation of their work, what they work done. So these are some importance or significances of preparing the technical report. Now, what are the characteristics of this, or what should it include? So, technical report may contain data, design criteria, procedures, literature reviews, research history, detailed tables, illustrations, images, explanation of approaches that were unsuccessful, and explanation of the results which were successful, and the way of perception of those particular results. These are all things it should contain. Then the technical report may be published before the corresponding journal literature, or may have more or different details than its subsequent journal article. That means already published journals have some data, and if you want to publish it with some novel or some contributions in that. Next is, it may contain less background information since the sponsor already knows it. Suppose the work is sponsored by some funding agency, then it may contains less background information because already the sponsor who is sponsoring you knows this. Then another characteristic is, it may have restricted access. That means classified and export control reports. So it may be possible that sometimes it is restricted access to it, it may not be accessible to all. It may contain obscure acronyms and codes as a part of identifying information. So it may include different acronyms and codes, algorithms for identifying the information. So these are some characteristics. Now we'll talk about creating. That is how to write. So there is two approaches. When writing a technical report, there are two approaches. So it depends on what suits you best. You can select that approach. One is First is top to down approach, and the next is, or second one is, evolutionary delivery. So in top to down approach, the structure of the entire report from title to subsection, sections, subsections, and conclusions, and then start putting in the matter in the respective chapters. So it it is like, here define the title of your work, then what are the chapters, and again in the chapters what sections you want to include, what are the subsections you want to include, and how many chapters you want to include, and those things you already prepared, and then you need to put in the content or information in that particular structure. So this allows the researchers thought to process to have a defined flow. That means already it is defined, and you are putting all this data, information, your thoughts in that structured flow, and therefore it helps in time management because you already prepared the structure and you are just putting out the information within that structure. So this approach is known as top to down approach. The next one is evolutionary delivery. So it is suitable, suppose if you have not done any structured, or if you have not decided or planned in what way we need to write the report. So it is like for those who believe in go with the flow. That means whenever something comes in mind, then put it in that uh, content, and then later you define or you prepare or organize that report in the structured way. So here the author writes and decides as and when the work progresses. So whenever he works on particular point, then he may write it or he may put it in the document. So what advantages this approach is, this gives you a broad thinking horizon, and so there is no fixed structure. So one can think whenever, or one can write whenever he something comes to his mind. So he can put it in that report. So that means it gives a broad thinking horizon. You can even add and edit certain parts when some new idea or inspiration strikes. So whenever something new strikes, some new idea strikes, so you can add and edit it in between the parts. So that is the advantage of evolutionary delivery. But in the top to down approach, it is already structure is fixed from title to conclusions, references, and you need to keep on putting in that matter. So these two approaches are there, and one can go with any one of the approach according to their interest or according to their habits. Now, while writing, what kind of structure, or it should, or it must have a defined structure so that it will easy for navigating and portraying our objectives of that particular report. So here is the list of pages set in the order that you should include in your technical report. So there are some points, some pages or some structure is defined here, or some pages, list of pages is given, and you can always include those pages while preparing your technical report, and these are in general. So first thing is cover page. So it is the face of your project. Cover page is first page, so it is the face of your project. It must contain details like the title of your work, name of the author, who is the author of that particular work, the name of the institution, its logo, then the supervisor, institute or organization. These things should be on the cover page, and it should be simple and eye-catching page. So it should not be very clumsy. It should be simple and eye-catching. Then title page. So sometimes title page and cover page are called same, but in addition to all the information of the cover page, the title page also informs readers about the status of the project. That means whether it is fully completed, partially completed, those things you can put it in the title page. So it gives information about status of the project. For instance, technical report part 1, final report, etc. like this. So there may be one report divided into two parts. So you can give name like part 1, or you can, if the report is final, then you can give it as a final report. So that should be on the title page. The name of the mentor or supervisor is also mentioned on this page. So most of the times we see this uh, on the project or project reports or dissertations. This title page is there, and it includes title, name of author, name of mentor, then name of institution, and then status of the project and year, academic year. These things are included. So the your report should start with these pages. Next is abstract. So it refers to as the executive summary of your work, and it gives concise and clear overview of your project, overall work, whatever you have done. So it is written in such a manner that a person only reading the abstract can gain complete information on that project or on that work you have carried out. So it is like a executive summary, and it should be concise and clear. So most of the times there are some word limitations while preparing the abstract, like if you are preparing some article, limitations like 150 words, 200 words, and when you are preparing some report, so generally 500 to 700 or 1000 words are the limit to write the abstract. So it is an executive summary. Next is preface page. That is, it is an announcement page where you specify that you have given the due credits to all the sources and no part of your research is plagiarized. So you are giving that announcement, or you are taking announcing that this is report contains or gives credits to all the references, resource sources which you have been utilized while preparing that, and no part of your research is plagiarized. The findings are of your own experimentation and research. So that is a preface page. So you are giving undertaking that this is your original work. Next is dedication page. So this is an optional page. When an author wants to dedicate their study to some loved ones, maybe their parents, family. So it is an optional page. It is a small sentence in the middle of new page. So mostly this is used in the thesis or dissertations. Then next comes acknowledgement. Here you acknowledge your mentor, your friends, colleagues, and research lab mates, these things, and the people or the parties or the institutions who helped you while carrying out your research work and who have inspired you for the idea of it as well as while preparing this document. So that comes in acknowledgement page. So this is not an optional page. So you need to include this acknowledgement page in your report. Next is table of contents. So table of contents, this is a general word, but it contains lot of things. So each chapter and its subchapter, sections, subsections are divided, and those all should be mentioned with page numbers. And this is for the easy navigation when a reader is referring your document. If you have included symbols or nomenclature abbreviations, then for that also a page should be mentioned after the table of contents, like abbreviations, nomenclature, or list of symbols. And you list down whatever symbols you have used throughout your uh, report, you should mention there. Similarly, if you have used graphs, figures, tables, then you need to prepare the separate pages for each of those, like list of tables, list of figures, and you list down the names or titles of those figures or tables with respective page numbers. So all of these pages should be on the new page. So they should not be combined in single page, or those should start with a new page. So this all comes under table of contents. Then your actual technical work or the structure of your research work you have carried out, then generally it starts with introduction, and introduction is beginning of your project work or technical writing. So on this page you must clearly specify the context of the report. It should include the background, then the purpose and the literature you have done, and from that you have identified the gap and what are your objectives of this project. Those things you should have included in this chapter. So the questions you have answered in your report, and sometimes an overview of the report is also provided. So your conclusion should answer the objective questions. So here you are defining the objectives, and when you write the last chapter of conclusion, it should answer those objective questions. Then comes the central chapters or between chapters, like chapter number 2, 3, 4, 5. So these chapters should be clearly defined with sub and subsections if needed, and every section should serve a purpose while writing the central chapter. Keep in mind the following factors or following points, like clearly define the purpose of each chapter in its introduction. So whenever you start the new chapter, like say for second chapter is your system description, so you define the purpose of that particular chapter, and then you give out the block diagrams and detailed description about those block diagrams. Or if your chapter is results and discussions, then you mention why that results and discussions is important in that literature or in that research work, and then you give out or you discuss your results, put the figures and discuss those results or analyze those results. So the first thing is you should clearly define the purpose of each chapter. Then second is any assumptions you are taking for this study should be mentioned. So while doing the research work, you might have assumed some parameters or you might have neglected some parameters. So those all kind of assumptions you need to put or you need to mention in that particular work in the report. So for instance, if your report is targeting globally or a specific country, so there can be many assumptions in a report. If you have carried out work for particular area, then you need to mention that assumption that this is applicable to that particular area. It is not for all or not applicable for global. Your work can be disregarded if it is not mentioned every time you talk about the topic. So if you are not mentioned and you are talking about only that point, then this is not good thing. Then results you portray must be verifiable and not based on upon your opinions. So results should not be based on your perception or your opinions. Those be verifiable or those should be proved by some other researchers also if they want, or you need to show them, you need to keep them with the proofs whatever results you are obtaining. So there is no to any opinions. So there is nothing like opinions in the technical reports. Then each conclusion drawn must be connected to some central chapter. So conclusion must be connected to some central chapters of whatever you have written, second, third, fourth, fifth. So your conclusion must be linked with those chapters. So once these central chapters are covered, then comes the conclusion chapter. So it is basically to conclude any and everything that you have talked. So anything you have talked about your research work or your project work, that should be in the conclusion section or in the conclusion chapter. Mention the finding of each chapter, objectives reached or attained, and the extent to which the given objectives were reached or attained. So these things must be included in the conclusion. Then also discuss the implication of the findings and significant contributions of your research, as well as you can put one subsection of future scope or future work, wherein either you or some other researchers want to pursue some research in that particular field. So those problems or research problems also you can pose in that section. Next is appendices section or appendices pages. So these are generally used for data or mathematical formulas, tables, figures. If you have taken our data sheets, those things you can include in these appendices, and these should be also mentioned in order they were used in the project. So you need to mention if suppose you referred some microcontroller or DSP device, then there may be its data sheet. So you should not include in the main chapters or central chapters, but you should mention in that central chapter that the detailed architecture or the detailed features of that controller or DSP are described in the appendix A or appendix B, like this. So these pages are also important. Then references. This is very crucial part because without it, no reports are complete. So it is very crucial part of your report, and it cites the sources from which the information has been taken, and this may be figures, statistics, graphs, or some data or word-to-word sentences. So these all things must be included in this reference sections. It may be book, it may be articles, conference papers, it may be some website also. The absence of this section can pose a legal threat to you. So this is very sensitive. If you have not included this reference section and you have used some details of the other existing material, then that may pose a legal threat to you and all the authors of that particular document. While writing references, give due credit to the sources and show your support to other people who have studied the same genres. So you need to give credit to all the material by for those people who have prepared that. And you need to show support to them. Then bibliography. So there is a confusion between references and bibliography. So references are actual material you take into your research and previously published by someone else. So that is references. Whereas bibliography is an account of all the data you read. So it is an account of all the data you read, got inspired from, or gained knowledge from, which is not necessarily a direct part of your research. So that is bibliography. So it may be discussions with some of the uh, researchers in this area in which you are working. So those discussions or some symposiums, debates where you have gained some knowledge, and those are like your part of your bibliography. So these are about the pages or structure of the technical report. Like introduction, it should have cover page or title page, abstract, preface, dedication, and then acknowledgement page, table of contents, in which again list index, list of figures, list of tables, list of abbreviations. Page must be included. Then the introduction chapter, it should give your objectives of the work. Then all the central chapters. Then conclusion chapter, and after conclusion, there may be appendices or appendix chapters, appendix pages, reference page, and bibliography page. So these all things must be included in your technical report. So some of the technical uh, tips while writing the technical reports. One, avoid using slang or informal words. So don't use like uh, can't or I have. Suppose you want to write. Generally, we avoid I, we, these terms because this is the second one. Use a third person tone and avoid using words like I, me. So you cannot use I also, and you cannot use slang words like this, or you cannot use words like because. So such kind of words or informal words can must be avoided or should not must not be used in the report. Always use a third person tone and avoid I, me, we, these kind of. But in certain reports or certain articles, one can use these words also. I or we generally. Suppose if single author is there, then he or she can use, or multi authors are there, they can use we also. And this is seen in the most uh, articles or journals where mathematics is more, or mathematical related journals, one can see these words. Each sentence should be grammatically complete with an object and subject. So sentences should not be half or half with half meanings. So it should be complete, which included objects as well as subject. Two sentences should not be linked via comma or avoid use of passive voices. Tenses should be carefully employed. Use present or something that is still viable and past for something no longer applicable. So one need to use these kind of tenses. Readers should be kept in mind while writing. Already we discussed that who is my reader or who are my readers, and accordingly we need to prepare our report. So one need to keep in mind. Avoid giving them instructions. Your work is to make their work of evaluation easier. So do not give instructions or suggestions through your report. You your work should be helpful for them for evaluation purpose or for finding out this research problem or solutions from your work. Abbreviation should be avoided, and if it is used, then you should be full form should be mentioned earlier. So these things should be kept in mind. Next, understand the difference between numbered and bulleted list. So when we generally we click on this bullet kind of things or sometimes numbered list. So when we use, so numbered is used when something is explained sequence wise. If there are some steps and those steps are should be followed in sequence man, then you can use for numbers 1 2 3, step 1, step 2, step 3, like that. And whereas bullets are used to just list out points, so that does not matter whether these are the sequences. So there may be You can use first statement as last statement also. So these bullets are used to list out the points, and sequence is not important there. And all the preliminary pages, just like cover page, title page, dedication page, acknowledgement page, abstract page, preface, list of figures, list table of contents, all these should be named in small Roman letters or small Roman numericals. So you can see such kind of page numbers on these preliminary pages. And all the other pages, the Arabic numerals like 1, 2, 3. So your chapter number 1, introduction chapter, should start with this page number 1. Separate long text into small paragraphs to keep the reader engaged. So do not use one sentence of 3 to 4 lines. So make it small so that reader is interested or engaged in your reading. And a paragraph should not be more than 10 lines. So these are not strict, but you can follow these guidelines. So it may be possible that in some cases a paragraph is of 14 to 15 lines also. Do not incorporate too many fonts. So use standard Times New Roman 12 point for the text. So do not incorporate too many fonts while writing the main content. So generally the standard format uh, widely used is Times New Roman with 12 font, or you can use bold for headlines or subsection headings or chapters headings. So there are uh, some templates are provided by various institution, organizations or publishers, and one can follow those templates. Then next is proofreading. If you think your work ends when the report ends, so again you think on that, and proofreading the report is very important. So once you have written, so don't directly submit it. You do the proofreading of your own report, and this is very important because while proofreading, you'll see your work from a reader's point of view, not as a writer. You are looking it as a reader point of view, and you will understand that there may be some corrections or some mistakes you have done, and that, or it may be grammatical mistake, typo errors, or maybe technical errors also. So one can find out and you can correct it. So check everything from the content to layout and style of writing, structure. All these things can be checked in the proofreading. So once that is done, then presentation of the report. So it is not about the presentation. It is about the presentation of your report. So it should be your, once you prepare the document, you print it on single sided on A4 size papers. Double side printing looks chaotic and messy. If it is allowed in your organizations, you can click on that, or you can use with double side. But most of the times dissertation or thesis are on single side on A4 size. Margin should be equal throughout the report. So all these formatting should be uniform throughout the report. Margins on left margin or right margin should be uniform. You can use single staples on the left side of for blind binding purpose, or use binders if the report is long. So you can use various methods to put it in to prepare that document. So in summary, technical report, how to orient everything, we can now look into how come up with the content and write it. So first thing you should be, before you write a report, is assemble all the sources or gathering the information, then plan and then sort out. And you can get all this in library notes or even different educational websites, blogs, or previous thesis reports. You should list down the topics and ideas of what your report is to cover randomly. After listing them, arrange them by classifying those. That means sorting out. After arranging the ideas, you need to write it roughly into small subheading. This is the rough outline and how the report should appear. So that is nothing but the your initiation of first draft. So at this point, you only need to write the body inclusive of headings, subheadings at the end, to the end. include the number of references materials that you wish to use. After you complete the first draft, you need to revise it to pinpoint where changes need to be done. At this point, you should ensure that your report contains all the information, necessary information. You should also consider the reader here so that it's a professional report or technical report. It portrays the qualities of a professional report. While revising, you also need to ensure that all the objectives have been ascertained in the report as per the topic is given. Also, you may need to use some diagrams, graphs, tables, bar graphs to make the reader understand what you want to talk or what you want to convey. Technical information is best put across by use of other means other than words. So you need to know the right format for these diagrams, tables. So below are some hmm, guide how to orient various appendices in your report, like graphs. So graphs should be well labeled to avoid confusion. Diagram should be drawn by your own, or those should be simple with all the nomenclatures given to that. Then tables are used to summary purpose, and table can help you list the points and explain them in brief, which helps the reader go through everything in brief. Then mathematics. So most of the times, if you are writing technical reports, so it most of the times it involves some analysis kind of work, and it uses mathematics. So you write the equations properly, give them numbers, and though if you have used some existing equations, give the proper citations to them. And if you want to give some proofs, you can put it in the main chapters, or if you are using some generalized proofs, you can put it in the appendix. Then these things we have seen that you should avoid overusing different fonts, avoid different fonts, it makes fussy. You should use different fonts to pinpoint an idea that you want the reader not to miss. So generally these different fonts are used in the figures to highlight something, or the diagrams or tables. You can also use emphasis or underlining or bolding to serve the same purpose. Headings, subheadings is also important because it plans your points. So the reader is able to understand different points when you categorize them into small headings and subheadings. So the reader may happen to have so little time with your report, and this will make them want to skim through the major points. So that will help the reader. So you may use content that does not belong to you while writing your technical report. This will entail proper in-text citation to avoid unoriginality of in your work. So it is good to know how to cite. So if you are not you referred, so avoid it. Or if you are referred some part also, then you need to cite it. Once you have cited that in your content, proceed and list the source in your reference listings. So to avoid plagiarism, you should also try to use your own words while explaining the points. Do not copy from that particular article or from the source you have obtained. So you should put it in your own words so that you will avoid plagiarism. You should also be cautious about the information that you obtain from the internet. Ensure the sources of information for your report is credible. Now, generally sources such as Wikipedia are not reliable because these can be editable by anyone, and these sources are not reliable. So that's why we see very less or one or two maximum ref, uh, web links in the reference section. You can use government websites if you are referred some data. So those things you can put it in the reference section with on which date you have accessed that website and with the full website link. So some of the reference material that are credible include books, articles, journals. You can determine whether source is credible by looking at the author and their work also. A good author will always have positive reviews for all their writing. So these are some tips. The final step in your report writing is proofreading. We already seen that. Then while writing your summary, you should be keen on the length so that it does not go beyond 300 words or some defined words. This is not fixed. This is just a number, but it should be like some finite words. A summary should not be too long because it will make the reader tired while reading it. It should be short and up to the point. The purpose of summary is usually to give the reader a brief overview of what research work you have carried out, or it gives a rough idea in mind what to expect from that particular report. So, how to find out this, or while writing this? So, you can always Google search the title of the technical report you want to refer something, or you can go to the publisher or university website or database, and you can refer full text reports or record of the describing reports also. Or when the full text cannot be found, you can always go through some of the sites or some websites, government websites, or ask for the libraries to purchase those, or librarian for the help of soft copies. So these things can be done if you want some technical report. So here is an example. We'll see this example in the next session. Detailed all these points whichever we have discussed, we'll see in the next section as an example of the technical report. So we quickly revise what we have seen. So your report structure should include cover page, title page, then abstract, executive summary, which may be of 300 to 500 words or 500 to 700 words or finite number of words, and it should be concise and clear. There is an announcement page, undertaking page. You may include dedication or you may avoid this, but acknowledgement page must be there, which acknowledges your mentor, supervisor, friends, families who you have supported in your research work and who have inspired or motivated this. Then list of table of contents. This includes your index page, then list of figures page, then list of tables page, then abbreviations. These things must be there in this list of table of contents, and all these are named with Roman small letters 1, 2, 3, and so on. Then introduction, which must include your objectives of work, and central chapters must be clearly defined. The purpose of each chapter must be defined at the start of the chapter. Then all the results must be verifiable and not those should not be based on your opinions. And conclusion must include everything, all the chapters that should be linked in this conclusion chapter, and check whether all the objectives are achieved or not. Then comes appendices, and references is very crucial part of your report, and you must include all the references, books, websites, conference articles, journal articles in your reference sections. And you can also mention the bibliographies, that is all the data you read, got inspired from, motivated, and gained knowledge from some person. So those things must be included in the bibliography. And there are some tips like avoid the informal words, avoid the words like I, we, these things, and use uniform. Keep the report in with uniform fonts, uniform structure. So use the numbered and bulleted according to your list. The preliminary pages are with these Roman letters, and the main pages are with 1, 2, 3. Then at the end, do the proofreading before doing the printing. So these are some summary or tips we have seen. So we'll see this example in the next session. So we stopped here, and in the next session we'll see one example of technical report. Thank you.